And I remembered how my mother used to go quiet at the dinner table sometimes, just like Claire did, and how I used to think she was fine. I had spent my whole life watching that dynamic, and then, without even choosing it, I had rebuilt it brick by brick inside my own marriage. And my son, my Owen. He was 7 years old, and he had already learned that arguments were weapons, that being right mattered more than being gentle, that silence in the other person meant you had won. He had learned all of that from me, not from a book, not from school, from me, from watching me every single day in the small ordinary moments that I thought didn't count. The next morning, I woke up early. Owen was still asleep. I made breakfast, properly, not rushed, and I set the table. When Claire came downstairs, she looked surprised. I said, "Sit down, please." She sat. I said, "I'm not going to explain myself. I'm not going to give you reasons or context or a logical breakdown of where I think I went wrong. I just want to say, I'm sorry for making you feel like you had to go quiet to keep the peace, for teaching our son that winning matters more than connecting. I'm sorry." Claire looked at me for a long moment. Her eyes filled up, but she didn't cry. She just nodded. That was it. No dramatic reconciliation scene. No big speech. Just two people sitting at a kitchen table in the early morning, and one of them finally saying the words the other had been waiting years to hear. Owen came down about 20 minutes later, still in his pajamas, hair messy, dragging his little blanket behind him. He climbed onto his chair and looked at the breakfast I'd made, then looked up at me with those watchful eyes. I said, "Good morning, buddy." He said, "Did you and Mama fight last night?" I looked at Claire. Then I looked at Owen, and I said, "We talked," and I said sorry. He blinked. "You said sorry?" "Yes." He thought about this for a moment, very seriously, the way children think about things that don't match what they expected. Then he said, "Okay," and he picked up his fork and started eating. Just okay. Like it was the simplest thing in the world. And maybe it was. Maybe it always had been, and I was the one making it complicated. About 3 weeks after that morning, Owen and I were sitting on the porch after school. It was one of those quiet afternoons. Cool air, the kind of light that makes everything look a little golden. He was eating an apple, and I was just sitting with him, not looking at my phone, not thinking about work, just being there. Out of nowhere, he said, "Dad, you always win arguments, but you always lose people." I turned to look at him. "What did you say?" He said it again. Calm. Matter of fact, like he'd been thinking about it for a while and had finally decided the moment was right. "Where did you hear that?" I asked. He shrugged. "I didn't hear it. I thought it." 7 years old. I put my arm around him and I pulled him close. He leaned against me and kept eating his apple. And I sat there, holding my son, feeling something shift permanently inside my chest. Like a wall that had been standing for decades had just quietly, finally, come down. Things didn't change overnight. Habits built over decades don't dissolve in weeks. There were still moments when that old sharpness rose up in me, when I started to form the counter-argument before Claire had even finished her sentence. But now I could see it. I could catch it. And more often than not, I could stop it. I started listening. Not to respond, just to actually hear. And something surprising happened when I stopped trying to win. Conversations got easier. Lighter. Claire started talking more, laughing more. And Owen started doing something he had rarely done before. He started apologizing to his friends. Mrs. Harper mentioned it at the next parent evening. She said, "I don't know what changed at home, but Owen has become one of the most emotionally mature children in the class. When there's a conflict now, He's often the first one to say sorry, even when he's not entirely wrong. I didn't explain. I just said thank you. On the drive home, Claire reached across and held my hand. Owen was in the back seat, already half asleep, his cheek pressed against the window. I thought about all the years I had spent being so certain I was the kind of man who had things figured out. All the energy I had poured into being right, and how the most important lesson of my life had come not from a book, not from a mentor, not from any great achievement. It had come from a 7-year-old boy eating an apple on a porch. Our children are not just watching us when we think they are watching us always. In the quiet moments, in the tired moments, in the moments we think are too small to matter. They are building their understanding of love, of respect, of how human beings treat each other, entirely from what they see us do. Not what we tell them, what we do. A few months after that, something small happened that I will probably remember for the rest of my life. It was a Saturday morning. I was fixing a loose cabinet door in the kitchen while Claire was making coffee. Owen was sitting at the table doing a puzzle. Everything felt normal, quiet, peaceful. Then Claire asked a simple question. "Ethan, did you remember to call the electrician about the lights in the hallway?" And without thinking, the old version of me appeared for a second. "I told you yesterday I was busy," I said quickly. "I'll do it when I have time." It wasn't loud, it wasn't even angry, but the tone was there. That same sharp edge I had used for years. Claire didn't say anything. She just nodded and turned back to the coffee machine. And in that moment, I noticed Owen. He had stopped working on his puzzle. He was watching me. Not scared, not upset. Just watching. The way he always had. That quiet observation children do when they are trying to understand the adults in their world. For a second, I felt that familiar instinct rise up inside me. The instinct to explain myself, to justify why I was technically correct. But then I remembered the porch, the apple, the sentence that had cracked something open inside me. So I put the screwdriver down. I walked over to Claire, and I said something that the old version of me would never have said. "Hey, I'm sorry. That sounded sharper than I meant it to." Claire looked at me, surprised for a moment. Then she smiled, not a big dramatic smile, just a small one. But it was real, and behind us, Owen quietly went back to his puzzle. No reaction, no comment. Just the quiet acceptance of a child who had seen something important. Something simple. Something he would probably carry with him for the rest of his life. Because children are always learning. Even from the moments we almost repeat our mistakes, children don't learn who we are from what we teach them. They learn from who we are when we think no one is watching.